Foreign ministers from a host of Commonwealth countries are meeting on the sidelines of the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting that begins tomorrow. The leaders will review developments in the Commonwealth and discuss issues such as green energy, rising food prices and the war in Ukraine. The meeting was initially due to take place in June 2020, but it was postponed twice due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Leon Senyane joins us from Kigali in Rwanda. Leon, the leaders have started arriving in Rwanda. Why is it important that these Commonwealth governments meet?
Well, it's certainly very, very important that the Commonwealth nations actually meet. And like you had said earlier, this meeting was supposed to have happened in 2020. And due to the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, it was postponed to 2022 here in Kigali, Rwanda. 54 countries form the Commonwealth nations. The latest inclusion was the Maldives, are only recently being reinstated. But importantly for these countries is that they come together and bound by, a few things: language, history, their in culture, but even still, the fostering of reforms in democracy, governance. And some of these things are the kind of ideas that are being trickled down to these Commonwealth nations. But beyond that, there are issues that need to be tackled: health, education, women, youth, people, hunger, disease. And these are some of the things that not all the Commonwealth nations can actually have the capacity to deal with. Of course, there's a difference in scale between the big nations and the small nations. The small nations, or the small states as they are referred to within the Commonwealth circles, are some of those within the Pacific, the Oceania region, even still Africa as well. So the capacity for some of these countries to try and box their way into solving some of their challenges is not as much as or as big as it could be for some of the other nations. So the conclave that is the Commonwealth is putting the heads of state, of governments as well, to come up with ideas, proposals, implement particular issues around the key issues, like I said, health, education, and of course, going forward to see that they gain advantages in things of trade and the opportunities and leverage on the growth that could come with the kind of relations that they have among each other.
And let me add to that list that you've just mentioned. Looking at the agenda, we've got climate change, the Ukraine conflict, and even human rights violations as part of the summit. How likely are we to make any headway on one of these issues, much less all of them?
Well, there's a really huge demand or a big request on the issues of climate change. The nations gathered earlier this week and came up with a non-binding charter or a document titled Living Lands Charter. Now, many of the countries expect that this particular document will be, or charter will be discussed and possibly adopted within the government structures of the Commonwealth nations. Hopefully this, of course, will go beyond just the Commonwealth nations and guide on things around biodiversity, the climate change, which definitely has affected several of the Commonwealth nations, are not just those, the globe at large. So this is one area that many want to see actions happen. Financing in terms of climate change action, policies being implemented by countries. That is one area that many feel should have particular outcomes. In regard to the issues of Ukraine, of course, there have been economic ramifications on the general spectrum for almost everybody because of the situation in Ukraine. The Commonwealth countries here are trying to figure out how best they can then survive the existing economic challenges, and even that beyond, trying to find solutions to the crisis that is happening. In regard to human rights violation, of course, the conference here comes on the back foot of a UK-Rwanda agreement where asylum seekers will be deported to Rwanda, Kigali. And that has, of course, raised some dust in particular corners. Activists say it is definitely dehumanizing people, those who are trying to seek opportunities out there. Others think otherwise. But of course, that still remains a very, very key issue on how Commonwealth nations are dealing with issues of human rights. And the broader perspective of things, though, is that it has to be dealt with holistically, and all this kind of decisions that can probably be made here are those that will benefit and guide the Commonwealth nations in trying to find pathways in resolving the challenges.
Leon, thank you so much for that comprehensive update. Leon Senyange from Kigali, Rwanda. Thank you.